Hi, it's Mike DelSignore. I want to talk about an issue that's hot in the news now is the COVID-19 vaccine. There's a couple different ones out. And the legal issue now people are wrestling with is, can this vaccine be required? Can you be forced to take the vaccine? A survey came out recently, about 50% of Americans don't want to take the vaccine because they fear that the vaccine's been rushed through and there might be negative side effects from the vaccine. And that when we've had problems like this in our history, the swine flu vaccine caused some problems with side effects. I've read some articles on that, and there's different reports about how widespread those side effects and whether they're caused by the disease of the vaccine. But people are rightly concerned about this vaccine that has been rushed through at record speeds and what we don't know about it now. But let's talk about it from a legal point of view. So the law that deals with whether somebody can force you to put something into your body, force you to take something, would be the Fourth Amendment. It's our right of privacy. The Fourth Amendment, most people understand, deals with searches and seizures, but it's been interpreted by the courts to sort of protect personal privacy. And that came about through cases about abortion, basically. There was the right of privacy was first recognized in a case called Griswold versus Connecticut. And then the right of privacy expanded into a women's right to choose and things like that. And now it's the states have been trying to restrict the right of privacy by placing greater regulation on abortion. But that's really where the right of privacy came from. So how does it apply to COVID-19? Can they force you to take the vaccine? So there are some cases on this. The first case to deal with whether a town or a board of health basically could force somebody to take a vaccine came from Massachusetts. There's a case called Jacobson versus Massachusetts and dealt with the smallpox vaccine. And the United States Supreme Court said that the board of health, that these are elected officials, they could deem that it's in the public interest and necessary to create a greater evil, a greater risk of public safety where people can be forced to take the vaccine. So that's a case back in 1902. There's been other cases since then, essentially affirming the right of a state to, in its policing power, require vaccines. And there's some other issues with vaccines. Back in 2014, there was an outbreak of the measles, and people hadn't been properly vaccinated for that. And New York and California, they passed laws requiring these vaccines, and they've said, well, the reason we had this massive outbreak was because people were under-vaccinated. So the law has provided states the ability to sort of compel vaccines. I think in this case, because of the speed the vaccine went through, there's got to be exceptions for different kind of health risks and those type of issues before criminal penalties can be imposed. Now, criminal penalty for not taking a vaccine is likely just going to be a fine. So we're not talking substantial penalties, but still, nonetheless, there are potential ramifications. And then there's the other context is employment. Can your boss say, well, if you're not going to take the vaccine, you can't come back to work? The EEOC has said that it's not going to be a violation of the Disability Act if you're required to take the vaccine. So the law is going to, I expect, to be very protective of the state and very supportive of the right to impose vaccine requirements based on what our health officials have said, that this now is safe and for us to get back on track, to get the economy back going, get people back to work, to take the vaccine. So it's certainly one of the more difficult issues that have faced our politicians is, on the one hand, people don't want to stay at home. People want to get back to sort of their normal lives. But on the other hand, we got this vaccine requirement. So I would expect, though, as lawyers, we should certainly argue that exceptions should be made. This should be studied more, and that people do have a right of choice about what they put into their body. But there could be consequences with it. Certainly, there could be a requirement that if you're not vaccinated, you can't take a flight. So there is that risk of, if you don't want to take the vaccine, you shouldn't be exposing other people to potential spreading of the COVID-19. So that's sort of the law on this. The cases are old cases. This hasn't come up much, but the states do have a right to impose a vaccine requirement, and employers will be able to provide restrictions if you don't take the vaccine. That could be employers may not want you coming back to work. There's issues of this all around. Now, employer could be liable. If the vaccine causes a side effect, the employer may be liable for the side effects in a workers' comp or other type of claim. If someone gets sick and the vaccine wasn't required, there could be liability. So there's really legal issues all over this COVID-19 challenge. So if you have questions about it, feel free to reach out. My name is Mike DelSignore, here to answer all your legal questions. Call, text, anytime, 781-686-5924. You can follow me at DelSignore Law on Facebook, and I'm also on Twitter and all the social medias under my name. Have a great day. Take care, everyone.